principles, not the word. So, last time we saw Swamiji discussing about the power of the words and thought connected with it. I had explained it to you also. And then coming to the point where Swamiji said, it is a foolish thought that we are trying to help others. It is a foolish thought, and all foolish thoughts brings misery. So whenever we are miserable, we have to understand there is something called foolish in the mind. Until unless we get rid of it, we will not be happy. So Swamiji says, all foolish thoughts brings misery. And the analysis, never will unhappiness or misery come through work done through without attachment. The world will go on with its happiness and misery through eternity. To this extent we had discussed, and of course I gave a bit of analysis that is done in Mandukya Karika. So somebody said, if you hear only the last 5 minutes, somebody will understand it's a Jnana Yoga class but not a Karma Yoga. Of course, the analysis is the same. Either you take a Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, the method of analysis, the analyzing is same. So, to give a bit of introduction regarding the Mandukya Karika, I explained, taking the word Prajnana. Prakrishta Jnanam iti Prajnanam. How it is Prakrishta, I explained all those things. Of course, these are all very wonderful things if we are able to study and analyze and understand. Now, after giving all these ideas, Swamiji now starts narrating a story. Of course, we have heard this story when we were very young. Many might have read a comic book on all these things. Even I had read it long before when I was very young in middle school. The same story Swamiji narrates here. Because Swamiji is narrating, I also will narrate. You know, but because of Swamiji, I am also narrating it to you. There is a poor man, you have to understand, it's a poor man who wants money. Whenever, if you perform any ritual at home, either a Swarna Gauri Vratha, Ananta Padmanabhana Vratha, or Vinayaka Chaturthi Vratha, at the end of all vratas there will be a story. Katha. It ends by Katha. You have to read that Katha Bhaga even before Vinayaka Chaturthi Visarjana, immersion of the idol. In all traditional families, before the immersion, this Katha Shravana will be there. Samantakamani, all those things I heard from very younger days. Even Satnan Vratha, that is done on all Hunme, Purnime. So, in the evening, morning there will be puja, and the evening there should be a Katha Shravana. I remember every Katha will start, Ondanu Kali Obba Bada Brahmanan Danu. Then I asked my Purvashrama father, why you always begin that with Bada Brahmana? Yes, Brahmana always say Bada. If there is any connection with the poor being a Brahmin being poor always. Every story starts. If I remember all those stories when I was young. So Swamiji also begins the same story. There is a poor man. So it is, we should not conclude that always poor men need money. Everybody need money. Rich people also need money. Especially in India, and that to politicians. So we can add not only poor men here, all Indian politicians wanted money. So there is a poor man who wanted some money. So he is a Indian poor man and an Indian village poor man. We have to add all those things. Because in search of money, he did not go into village and started bargaining for some votes. He went in search of a saint who can give a charm, a power of mantra through which he can possess a ghost. So he went in search of a saint, and then he pleaded him for a charm. Then that saint told, no, don't bother yourself all those things. Anyhow, you are happy. Though you are poor, you are happy now. Why do you want to get troubled? Then after too much of pleading, without any other go, then with a disgusted, then that saint they gave him, take this charm and chant for 1 lakh times, 3 lakh times, 10 lakh times. Then you will possess a ghost. After chanting that power, that mantra, then he could possess a ghost. Then he gave a warning. You have to keep that ghost always active. That is the warning that he gave. Then he came back, did chanted, then he could possess a ghost. The ghost came and he said, then this poor man thought he has plenty of work, so he can keep 24/7 into 365, this ghost always busy. But when the ghost appeared before him, then same thing, you have to keep me active, otherwise I will swallow you. Then he thought, you construct, you break down this forest, you cut this forest, afforestation, deforestation. You build a palace for me, you construct. So he went on giving so many works. So every work that given by that poor man, he could finish within a second. Then he saw he could not give any work to him. Then the ghost said, I will swallow you. Then he ran in search of that saint who gave this charm and said, so Swami, this ghost will swallow me, what is the solution? Then the saint said, I warned you earlier, but you did not listen to my warning. Then he said, what could be done? Done. Whatever is done is done. No, I want solution. Then nearby there was a dog with a curly tail. Then he said, take out a sword, cut the tail and give it to the ghost, ask him to straighten the tail, curly tail. Many Alsatian dogs will not have a curly tail, you should know that. If you know the breeding of dogs, there are so many dogs without curly tail. No, in this story you should take a dog with a curly tail. So, Doberman will not have a tail. Of course, they have a tail, but they will cut it at the younger stage. They will not grow a tail. So, here a dog with a curly tail. Then he cut the tail of the dog, gave it to the ghost, asked him to straighten. When it straightened, it remained straightened. But the moment it left his hand, again it became curly. Then he tried to straighten the dog's tail so many times, finally, miserably, he failed. Then he requested the poor man, you have to leave me alone, you can keep all the possessions that I gave, but give me freedom. Then the ghost went away. Then Swamiji continues. He compares this word to a curly tail, where you cannot straighten it. He says, this word is like a dog's curly tail, and people have been striving to straighten it out for hundreds of years. But when they let it go, it has curled up again. How? How could it be otherwise? One must first know how to work without attachment, then one will not be a fanatic. Here, one thing that I have to add here, when Swamiji says, this word is like a curly dog's tail where we cannot straighten it. If you read only this sentence, then what will be our idea? Why struggle to help somebody? We know this word is a curly tail because Swamiji said this. So, Swamiji says, if you can understand properly this word, if you go to straighten this word, it will remain curly. Never we can proceed with making this word perfect. So, in the beginning itself, let us avoid by not doing anything so that we will not mend up our brain with trying to do all these things. Then there will be a cynical attitude. The problem, first, there are two, three things that we have to understand here. We know that the word is a curly dog's tail, which cannot be straightened. What is the outcome? The first thing that, so according to Swamiji himself says, when you know that this word cannot be straightened, the first thing that happens, you will not be a fanatic. Swamiji very clearly says, you will not be a fanatic. You understand all these things, Krishna did not have time to explain. This word of fanatic and fanaticism, bigotry, bigotic. Of course, he has used different terms, but so clearly Krishna could not explain in the Karma Yoga of Bhagavad Gita. This is an addition of Swamiji. That's why I told you, wherever there is an addition apart from Bhagavad Gita's Karma Yoga, I will mention you. Here, when you get the idea that this word cannot be straightened, you will not be will not be a fanatic. So many religions are fed up with fanaticism. So many followers for every Swami in this world. He will form one group, that Swami will form one group. The saint, after his passing away, his followers will form one group. Thousands of Swamis, thousands of saints, everybody has got his own following, and everybody wants to preach morality in this world. And while trying to preach morality, they fight among themselves. Fanatic, bigoted, bigotry. Where does this come? Swamiji, fortunately today is September 11th. Swamiji, let the bell that rang this morning, Swamiji concludes his message, let the bell that tolled this morning be the death knell of all fanaticism, either with pen or with a sword. Swamiji concludes this message with these words, if you remember. Today, September 11th, Swamiji, 129 years before, September 11, 1893, Swamiji spoke in Chicago. My sisters and brothers of America, my throat is not so good. So, the very first idea that you get, the outcome of this thought is, if you have this attitude, is that we will not remain a fanatic. First thing. Second thing that we have to understand, Swamiji, let us say, I am not a fanatic. I understand that this word is dog's curly tail. I don't feel like doing service because I feel whatever I do, the total effect is nil. Then how to proceed? See, this statement of Swamiji saying that this word is a curly tail, Swamiji is speaking in the idea or based on the idea of absolute. When you take this word as an absolute, in the sense, considering this word as samsara as absolute, this samsara goes on, birth and death, this goes on for thousands of years. If you consider thousands of years, then this word is a curly tail. But when you take it relatively, as I am living today, you are passing by a road, somebody is struggling on the road without food, giving him food will straighten his hunger. Swamiji, when he says it's a curly tail, you have to take thousands of years, not just one day sitting at a Karma Yoga class and hearing and making a statement that this word is a curly. No. Curly tail is absolute. Taking a state of absolute reality. When you take samsara, samsarati iti samsaraha. What do you mean by that? This goes on eternity. Birth and death goes on eternity. So don't make a statement, this word is a curly tail, taking a relative standpoint. Relatively speaking, you helping somebody has helped him relatively. You helping this society has helped you and him relatively. This is not a curly tail. But when you say that you are trying to help this world, this is a curly tail. You cannot help anybody. And extending, as long as you feel that you should be loved, you love others. As long somebody feels that he should be sympathized, as long you feel this word is not taking care of you, this word is not with the sympathy, then share sympathy. When you come to a state where don't you expect, then you say this word is a curly tail. Till that, don't try this philosophy. This applies on a higher platform, not on lower platforms. This is for to remove fanatic idea from our brain. So that's why you feel so much disgusted in this world on many ideas. Though Swamiji says there is no evil, absolute goodness, this is a perfect in its own. But still, when it comes to all these ideas of religion, so much confusion. Which Swami is to believe, you see? Which Swami to believe in this world? Which religion to follow? Which ritual to follow? So much confusion among common mass. When you take all these ideas, think that this word is a curly tail, because that will remove fanaticism from the brain. That is very important. That's why this is taking on a higher platform. Then, so don't develop any cynical attitude. Nakaratmakavada chintanegalu. Cynical. Concluding that nothing is going to happen in this world, let us be ourselves. No, that's not possible. As long as we expect, so long you expect, so long you give. As long you feel that hunger, give food to person who is hungry. As long you know the value of education, spread the education. As long you know the importance of Vedanta, preach Vedanta. As long you know the value of Bhakti, preach Bhakti. Don't say that this word is a curly tail. You say curly tail not expecting anything from the other end. But from your end, when you know the value, you have to go on giving. Because by giving only, this world remains as it is. By giving, this world remains static. Why? There are so many people, thousands of people who are serving in this country. Is it not? A soldier protects our borders, though for the sake of stomach, maybe. But he is serving this country by being at the border. Especially we have a problem of highest battlefield, one of the highest battlefield in the world, Siachen Glacier. Is it not? If you stay for 3 months, 100 days, your life will reduce by 5 years. That is the saying in the army. Only infantry goes, part of infantry, or one of the part of army is infantry. So infantry goes to Siachen Glacier, because you have to fight a battle practically there. So if you stay for 100 years, your life is reduced by 5 years, they say in army. I don't know exactly in medical terms, but there is a common statement made by army men who have visited Siachen Glacier. So, how can you not recognize those services? Like there are so thousands and lakhs of people doing that. In the sense, they are maintaining the amount of goodness in this world. They are maintaining the amount of goodness parallel to the evil that's there in the world. By serving only, you can maintain that goodness in this world. So, it is not necessary. Don't take this statement as a cynical attitude. You have to take it in a positive sense to avoid fanatic ideas. Because while reading, I thought so many people will be hearing. Of course, this will be there in the YouTube, and so many thousands of people will be watching later on. Not you, the people who are just sitting here. That's why I thought it's better to clarify, even though we may know many things, better to clarify individual points, especially ideas like these. So, Swamiji concludes this para saying, which I will read now, you need not worry or make yourself sleepless about the world. It will go on without you. When you have avoided fanaticism, then alone will you work well. When you avoid fanaticism, then alone you will work well. Why? Swamiji continues, it is the level-headed man, the calm man, of good judgment and cool nerves, of great sympathy and love, who does good work and so does good to himself. The fanatic is foolish and has no sympathy. He can never straighten the world, nor himself become pure and perfect. Actually, if you want, if you have a level-headed man, calm man, good judgment, coolness, of great sympathy and love, even according to neuroscience, all these things can happen only with the development of neocortex. There is something called a primitive brain, or it is primitive brain is also called a reptilian brain. I don't know much, I know the basics. You should not think that, oh, Swami has read neuroscience. No, please don't misjudge. I have read a bit for my understanding, that's all. Many people know many things. So, to have what is stress management, what do you mean by anxiety, why there are fear. So many youths come with so many depression problems. To understand myself, to understand them, I try to understand through neuroscience. Because that is the language of the day. So, there is something called primitive brain, which is also called a reptilian brain. Above that is the neocortex. As man grew in this, from an ape to human being, all the instincts are, to put it more wisely, all the emotions are from that primitive brain. So, when the neurocortex is well developed, when humans is the development of the animal, or so-called nearest the ape, he developed this neurocortex. There are so many new connections happening, especially when we are young. Connections happen, lot of connections. When he is adolescent, there will be so much neural connections. But unfortunately, those connections will not be driven by a matured frontal lobe development. All mature decisions come from frontal lobe. So many names are given, I do frontal cortex or frontal lobe. How does this frontal lobe will develop? To deep thinking, deep analysis attitude, or through meditation. A deeper level of meditation will evolve your frontal lobe. Then the man will be having a good judgment, coolness, sympathy, love, everything comes from development of this frontal lobe. During adolescence, he will have lot of new connections. That's why you see people who are in teenage, they will have lot of confusions without matured ideas, because their frontal lobe is not developed properly. So, to develop this, when we land in fear and anxiety, when emotions grips us, we lose judgment. So you are allowing the primitive brain to take over your personality. When the emotions wells up, all instincts happens in that primitive brain. When you allow that part of brain to be active, what do you mean by allowing? You allow that part to be active. Chikkmakkalnu karkoman, don't allow young men. No, all young men outside, only adult inside. Even young, grown-up people find it difficult to practice, not to hear, practice. So, during teenage, when emotions wells up, this primitive brain becomes active. When primitive becomes active, he loses judgment. So, to hold on to oneself, whenever, especially they call it a flight or fight, because this body is the development of an animal, it has got the nature to having the mode of survival mode. Any time you see, this body is made to sit on a survival mode. How to survive? Suppose you are working in a company, working under somebody. If he gives work or you are overloaded with work, what is the idea that how to survive in this space? How to survive in the company? How to survive? Always on the mental load, on physical plane, always we are on survival mode. So when you are in survival mode, all instincts becomes active. That's why you make the primitive brain active. That's why developing our brain and attitude with a deep thinking and practicing, all initiated devotees, please make it a habit. Be serious with japam. Be serious with japam. Sit for 10 minutes, be serious for 10 minutes. Be serious with your meditation. So then you will have a cool now a judgment, because you are shifting from a primitive to neocortex, that is a frontal lobe. The more one becomes meditative and analytical and deep thinking and having a deep steady attitude, his frontal lobe will be well developed. So why I simply, because next week I have to take a session for one of the faculty development program. So they want me to specifically speak on this subject. What is the difference between a judgment? Why there are fear, anxiety, depression, stress? Because when we shift to animal instinct, you will have stress, fear, anxiety, depression. Coming to a judgment, a cool nerve, because you need the frontal lobe to be well developed based on deep thinking, self-analysis. That's why when, especially teenage, allow them to be too much deep thinking, analytics, self-analytic, bring Vedanta. Ask them to meditate more. Let them analyze things and then digest. All these things coming out of rat race and competition will make them more analytical. Then only you need not worry what? Avoid how to avoid this fanatic. He level-headed man, calm man, good judgment, cool nerves, a great sympathy and love. All this comes from a matured brain. We have two hemispheres. One hemisphere, left hemisphere, I think, will take off a logical thinking. Right hemisphere will think of all love, sympathy, bhakti, Vedanta, all comes from the development of the right cerebral system. Mingling together is called the personality according to neuroscience. That's why when we want all these ideas to be imbibed, we have to be more, a person should have a deep thinking set of an idea, mental setup. Now to continue, now Swamiji concludes this lecture. We help ourselves, not the world, giving a summary of what he explained till now in 4 points. Swamiji himself makes point to number 1. What he says? We are all debtors to the world. Means we have something to pay back to this world. The world does not owe anything to us. We are the debtors. So it's a privilege for us to serve this. It's not that we are serving, it's a privilege to serve. Then the second point is, there is a God in the universe. He will take off the needs of this world. You are only a tool in that circle. He will utilize this tool if you are perfectly unselfish. If you say, I am doing, then he will remove this tool, bring somebody else. So there is a God. Second point, there is a God who will take care of this world, and world is perfect in itself. He is working incessantly, and the changes and manifestations of this world are his. Second point. Third is, we ought not to hate anybody. We are not here to hate anybody. Our duty is to sympathize with the weak and to love even the wrongdoer. The world is a grand moral gymnasium wherein we have all to take exercise so as to become stronger and stronger spiritually. Fourth point, we ought not to become fanatics, which just now I explained. So Swamiji concludes, it is not easy to do this. And further, the calmer we are and the less disturbed our nerves, the more shall we love and the better will our work be. With these ideas, Swamiji conclude. Here, when Swamiji gives so many ideas how to work without fanatical idea, and all those things. Just to give one example, which I remembered, there was a famous painter by name Vincent Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh, G-O-G-H, Gogh. It's a proper noun. How they pronounce it, I don't know. I have read it. Vincent Van Gogh. He's a Dutch. Born in Netherlands, died in France. There is one thing very wonderful. Of course, he died in 1890, 100 years back, not now, 1890. He lived only for 37 years. Unfortunately, he shot himself, suicide. He shot himself and died. One of his recent paintings was sold in 1990 for $80 million. Today, they have put today's price. $180 million was one painting of Vincent. $180 million for one painting. He painted almost 1,000 paintings in 10 years. It took 10 years to paint 1,000 paintings. It's called a classics. Maybe put together approximately 900 plus paintings. Altogether, his work is 2,100 works he has published. And the main part is, why he committed suicide. First part, why he committed suicide? Because he thought he had kept a high ideal. And during his days, he thought he could not keep up the ideal. As an artist, he could not express himself perfectly as an artist. In frustration, he killed himself. But the important part of this van is, Vincent Van Gogh, he used to start his painting during sunrise. He used to stop painting during sunset. And then he used to say, I have a lifetime work to be done. I have no time to be wasted. Whenever he used to start painting, he used to think, this nature has so many things to be painted. First, I have to capture the nature and to manifest it as a painting. He said, there are millions of things on this earth that has to be painted of the nature. So, whenever the sun used to set, he used to feel depressed. Say, one more day is gone. No, I cannot do. I have so many things to do. But when sun sets, he used to be depressed. As Thakur used to be unhappy seeing the setting sun, say, oh, one more day gone, I could not realize God. Sri Ramakrishna says, I could not realize God. Sun is set now. One more day. Indina dinavu kalaitu. That was the idea of Thakur. He was not worried about God realization. He was worried about painting. He said, so many millions of painting to be done, and sun is, he stayed in 1890. No ordinary artificial light like this sun gun, so many guns like these lights were not invented during those times. So, he could not paint with an ordinary lamp or a lantern. So he thought, still I have to wait another for 12 hours to paint. He was completely involved, forgetting the word. So Swamiji says, he is not worried about the word. He is worried about the only work at hand, painting, Vincent. Totally concentrated and deeply depressed, seeing the setting sun, completely involved. He is neither worried about the curly tail, nor about the fanatics, nor about anybody gossip. He had no time he said, I have no time to gossip, because so many things has to be painted, no time to be wasted. Completely involved. There are so many people, not just spirituality, so many people in the other different fields also, just to give a different idea of so many, because many people won't read many books, is it not? To give you an idea of a painter, I told you. If you want, you will get more details on Wikipedia also. You can search it on Google, Vincent Van Gogh. You will get further details also. Now coming to the 4th chapter, which according to Karma Yoga book is 8th, the last chapter. But Swamiji gave this lecture as a 4th. Now, the name of the chapter is The Ideal of Karma Yoga. He started with karma in its effect on character, then what is duty, then he gave we help ourselves, not the world. Giving an idea of Karma Yoga, now we have to summarize what he gave in 3 classes, summarizing under the title of The Ideal of Karma Yoga, which I read when I started the Karma Yoga classes. Because I started with this only. I started from the last chapter, gave what Swamiji wanted, then entered the first chapter. I will be reading again the first few lines from this and then proceed. Swamiji says, the grandest idea in the religion of the Vedanta is that we may reach the same goal by different paths, according to Swamiji says, according to Vedanta. We may reach the same goal by different paths, and these paths Swamiji says, I have generalized into 4, that is, those of work, love, psychology and knowledge. But you must at the same time remember that these divisions are not marked and quite exclusive of each other. Each blends into the other, but according to the type which prevails, we name the divisions. All these things I have explained to run through. Swamiji says, 4 yogas, he says, I have summarized into 4. There are so many paths, but I have summarized into Bhakti, Jnana, Yoga and Karma. I gave an example of, we have faculties, thinking, feeling and willing. So thinking is Jnana and feeling is Bhakti, willing is Karma. To strengthen, by strengthening the will, you are doing the Karma Yoga. By strengthening the love, you are offering it as a Bhakti Yoga. By strengthening the thinking, we are pursuing the path of knowledge. There is one more left out according to English psychology, that is self-control, which we perform through Raja Yoga. So the concept is, nothing is exclusive, but dependent on pradhanyena tadvadaha. I quoted this. In Pramana Shastra it comes. Pradhanyena tadvadaha. Depending on the predominance of the particular faculty, we say it is a Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga. But everything is convergent. It's a harmonious development. But depending on the predominance of one guna or the one path, we say it's a Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga respectively. So Swamiji finally says, we have found out that in the end, all these 4 paths converge and become one. All paths become one. All religions and all methods of work and worship lead us to one and the same goal. Please remember here, when we say leading to the same goal, don't think that, for an example, I will say you, suppose a procession will start from Yeshantpur. One procession will start from, let us say, Malleshwaram. Another procession will start from JP Nagara. Another procession will start from Bannerghatta. All the team were told to assemble finally at Ramakrishna Mutt, Bull Temple Road, Bangalore. So all will converge at Ramakrishna Mutt, Bull Temple Road, Bangalore. No. All the goal lead to the same room does not mean this. You reach the goal means all religions and all methods of work and worship lead us to one and the same goal does not mean converge at a single point. It is infinite. When you say God is infinite, Atman is infinite, paths converge at the same goal. What do you mean? Swamiji states in the second line. I have already tried to point out that goal. It is freedom as I understand it. So everybody leads to freedom. Otherwise, why Brahma Chaitanya will insist on Rama Nama, Meera on Krishna Nama, a Saint Francis of Assisi on prayer, or a Karma Yogi will say unselfish action. Their path will be same, even though they attain goal, the idea of freedom, but what they insist upon the followers is what the path that they have taken. They will not say, you can follow any path. No. If you go to Brahma Chaitanya Mandira, or if you had been to Brahma Chaitanya, what he would have insisted as a bhakta, you to take the name of Ramanama and he will initiate into Ramanama. He will not say, you follow the path of Saint Francis of Assisi. No. So, all paths lead to the same goal does not mean everybody will converge at a single point. No. Please remember, he will find the fructification in his own path, attaining freedom. He will take Ramanama and attain freedom. Saint Francis of Assisi or so many saints are there. So they all attain freedom through that path. That is the goal, not converging at a single point. Now, Swamiji defines this idea of freedom in under 2 pages. I will try to summarize because I have 2-3 ideas to express here. Now, Swamiji says, atom to man, everybody is trying to attain freedom. We had read, I think, in the structure of atoms in 8th standard or 9th, if I remember. When we were trying to draw the structures, every atom, even in chemical reactions, why does a chemical want to participate in a reaction? That was taught in when we started learning about periodic tables and chemical reactions, even in titrations in our PUC classes, if you remember what you have read in all your classes. When it attains the full, suppose, a static state, furthermore it will not involve itself in any of the reactions, even with respect to atoms or with any chemicals. Swamiji says, from atom to man, from insentient lifeless particles, matter to the highest existence on earth, the human soul, the whole universe is in fact the result of this struggle to attain freedom. Every insentient being to the highest soul on this earth, that is human being, every struggle is to attain the freedom. The way Swamiji expresses is, Swamiji says, it is under the impulse of this tendency that the saint prays and the robber robs. What I like in Swamiji is the method of his expression. Swamiji says, a saint prays and a robber robs to attain freedom. But only the path is different. So, a saint prays because he is not happy with the limitations of this body and mind. He wants to attain freedom from this body and mind, he prays. A robber robs because he is finding the limitations of money. To attain freedom through money, he tries to rob. So Swamiji says, the freedom which the saint seeks is very different from that which the robber seeks. The freedom loved by the saint leads him to the enjoyment of infinite, unspeakable bliss, while that on which the robber has set his heart only forges other bonds for his soul. Now, he will combine the idea of freedom with unselfishness, because we are karma yogis. We are trying to attain freedom through unselfishness. Now, Swamiji connects the idea of freedom with unselfishness, which I will read and try to explain 2-3 points under this heading. Swamiji says, so the basis of all morality, we had read under what is duty also, the basis is unselfishness. So, what do you mean by actually unselfishness? What do you mean that a man is unselfish or do work according unselfishly? What do you mean that? It is, he said, a man cannot be confined to me and mine. He is expanding, not in terms of physical development, in the sense of expansion of his consciousness. He cannot be contained in this body and mind. He expands. So he cannot be confined, according to Swamiji's statement I will read, he cannot be confined within the limited circle of me and mine. So Swamiji says, supposing this absolute unselfishness can be reached by a man, what becomes of him? Suppose somebody has attained unselfishness, what becomes of him? He is no more the little Mr. So and so. He has acquired infinite expansion. Now here, I want to give an idea. What do you mean by infinite expansion? What do you understand by infinite expansion? Think very openly. When you say, you should be especially very clear in our paths. That's why I am making this statement. Want to make it more clearer. Infinite expansion according to Mr. So and so who has attained infinite expansion. I will substitute this infinite expansion with one more word. Antahkarana Shuddhi. You should know, we know many words. And we know better Kannada and Sanskrit, but not English. Swamiji is speaking to Americans, not to Indians. I am speaking to Indians. So I have to use a substitute word for us. And we know that, but we don't know the real meaning of those words. Here, when you want to attain a perfection in a particular field, the requisite is Antahkarana Shuddhi, especially for a sadhaka. For a bhakta, you need Antahkarana Shuddhi. For a Vedantin, he needs Antahkarana Shuddhi. For a Rajyogi, he needs Antahkarana Shuddhi. For a Karma Yogi, he needs Antahkarana Shuddhi. Swamiji is trying to explain this Antahkarana Shuddhi according to Karma Yogi. That's why many times I feel it is better to tell, because we don't understand these things according to what we know already. Now coming to the point of Antahkarana Shuddhi, what do you mean? Let us take a Vedantin first. I will conclude with a Karma Yogi, but always begin with Gnana Yogi, because it is our field, is it not? Particularly my field, of course. So let us start with a Gnana Yogi. So when you say Shuddhi, you should understand what is Ashuddhi. Is it not? When you explain Ashuddhi, Shuddhi is by inference, it is understood. If you say a mind is having a kama, krodha, lobha, then it is you say Ashuddhi. That statement is understood. But when you say how to understand Antahkarana Shuddhi according to a Vedanta, according to Vedanta, let us take an example. Somebody gifted you a watch. Let us say somebody gifted you, presented. Swamiji, you have. You gifted somebody, I will take for myself. Somebody comes and gives. Swamiji, you have this watch, I am gifting you. The moment I am talking according to Gnani. So the moment you see a watch, what happens? A vritti of watch immediately wells up in the brain. A chitta vritti of the watch. So then it is Ashuddhi. It is not Antahkarana Shuddhi. You relate it to Kama, Krodha, Loba, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. I will give a relative example. You have to extend the example. Why there is a vritti of the watch? Because you are receiving that watch is different from pure consciousness. Whatever object or very objectifying itself is Ashuddhi for a Gnana Yogi. Anything apart from pure consciousness or the Brahma, which is the Adhisthana, Brahman, which is the Adhisthana of this mirage called the world, is Ashuddhi. Antahkarana Shuddhi nasti tatra. Tathaiva, therefore, it is Ashuddhi, Antahkarana Ashuddhi. Why there is a Kama? Differentiation. Why there is Krodha? Differentiation. Why there is Loba? Differentiation. What is Shuddhi for Kama is Brahmacharya. What do you mean by Brahmacharya? There is nothing except pure consciousness is Brahmacharya. There is no object in purity. Objectification is always in impurity, which is not pure consciousness. You see, objectification is impurity according to Advaita Vedanta. Please remember. Objectifying is impurity. Objectlessness is purity. That is Antahkarana Shuddhi according to a Gnani. That's what supposing this absolute unselfishness can be reached by a man, what becomes of him? So and so, he has acquired infinite expansion, he has attained perfect Antakarana Shuddhi. Now coming to Bhakti Yoga. What do you mean by Antakarana Shuddhi? Now you have understood the summary of Antakarana Shuddhi. Now not necessary to explain. What if I give one example, that will be more than enough. What do you mean by Antakarana Shuddhi by a Bhakta? Not seeing Ishta is Antakarana Shuddhi. Where every thought should be connected to our Ishta or mantra. Mantra, Ishta, Guru and Chaitanya. All the four are one. Mantra, Ishta, Guru and the Chaitanya. All the four are one. Every thought should be connected to the Ishta. If it is not connecting to Ishta, then it is Antakarana Shuddhi. That's what. A famous example is Gopi, which I explained. Gopikas. They had their, in last Leela Prasanga we had discussed, when Uddhava said, you meditate and know that Krishna is Antaryamin. Then what they said? If we had our mind in our control, then we could have meditated and do japam, 1,008, 10,000, 10,000, 20,000. This mind has been offered to Sri Krishna. We have no mind of ours. That is Antakarana Shuddhi according to Bhakti. When you come to Antakarana Shuddhi according to Karma Yogi, infinite expansion, nothing mine, everything is yours. There is no I, there is no Mangalanathananda present and giving lecture. When you say that I am giving lecture, gone. There is no Karma Yoga at all. No subject-object relationship. Whatever you see, either if you believe in, Swamiji explains, for non-believer of God, non-believer of doctrine of scriptures, if you don't believe in any scripture, he will explain next. We don't have time to extend. So, according to how do you expand? When you will get this infinite expansion, when there is no I and mind, there is no Mangalanathananda XYZ. It is only me as a tool there to serve you, because Lord has given the opportunity to serve you. When that is there, the idea or attitude, that is the Shuddhi for a Karma Yogi, Antakarana Shuddhi. When you get any moment, suppose, what does this Gopikas did? When they were supposed lying down, going to sleep, they thought, how can I make Krishna comfortable? When they used to eat, how can I offer this to Krishna? When they used to walk, they used to think, what can I offer to Sri Krishna? In every sense, there is no I. Everything is Krishna. So, the moment of unselfish idea, the thought engulfs the brain as a Brahmakara Vritti in Vedanta. Except Brahmakara Vritti, nothing exists. First Brahmakara Vritti, then realization of the one infinite pure consciousness. First he will get Brahmakara Vritti. So in the same sense, all idea, all thought which has got unselfish attitude idea, he has attained that infinite expansion which is Antakarana Shuddhi according to Karma Yogi. That's why when you read, you have to, many times I request you to do manana and connect things that you know. You would have read Vachana Veda, connected to this idea. Suppose how to connect it to Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga that Swamiji is trying to speak here. You have read Gnana Yoga. Then understand every yoga properly according to its own terminology. Then you will be able to understand, by supposing this absolute unselfish can be reached by a man, what becomes of him? He is no more than little mist, and so he has acquired infinite expansion. Means he has attained that Antakarana Shuddhi, pure, 100% pure. Antakarana Shuddhi asti atra. So, then, same thing is expected of a Bhakta, of a Gnani, of a Yogi. Then you question, then what is Antakarana Shuddhi? Oh yes, anything objectification is, for a Gnani Yogi, it's a Ashuddhi. Because he should not see anything except Brahman. Nothing, no objectification. Objectification is a limitation. Objectification is limitation. It's not jnana, pure jnana. Of course, those things Swamiji clearly explains in Jnana Yoga. What is knowledge? What is objectification? What is knowing? What to know? What do you mean by to know? All those things Swamiji has explained in Jnana Yoga. Convert those ideas and understand the Karma Yoga here. This is the method of analyzing and understanding the statements. With this, I will conclude. And next Sunday, there will be no lecture or class on Leela Prasanga, because next Sunday I will be in Belagaum. So some of the Swamis here at Bangalore, they will be taking the classes. We will continue the other Sunday. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.